My name is Christian Perry, Research Manager for Infrastructure at 451 Research. I'm our team lead for hyperconverged infrastructure and also oversee our customer data with Voice of the Enterprise for HCI. Increasingly, we see an explosion of data coming into today's organizations and the challenges that IT face managing that data. Alongside that, we also see an explosion at the edge. So what are we talking about when we say edge? We're talking about any IT sites outside of centralized data centers, outside of public cloud. This could be a remote data center or a micro data center or IT infrastructure sitting in a cage or in a closet or even on a desktop. The idea is about getting applications closer to the data and data closer to the applications. It's about getting closer to customers and closer to remote IT workers. So for example, retail organizations capturing point of sale data. It's oil and gas capturing real-time data from drilling sites. But the answer is not just to throw infrastructure at the edge and hope for the best. Instead, we increasingly see the need for what we'll call intelligent infrastructure that's inherently automated, orchestrated, and easy to manage. Despite all of the opportunities that we see at the edge, and these opportunities are only going to grow, we also see a host of challenges that IT teams face as their businesses seek to grow at the edge. One of those is the inherent nature of the edge that doesn't really supply good space for IT infrastructure. Traditional three-tier infrastructure does not quite fit as well at the edge as it does in centralized data centers. So space is a problem. Also, manual provisioning and manual management of infrastructure is a tremendous challenge at the edge because edge sites typically don't have IT teams, let alone a single IT person at each of those sites. So that can be a problem as well. Further, as the edge expands, and if the initial implementation of an edge site is successful, we do tend to see edge expand for an organization. The management of all of those various sites can be a real bear, particularly if the infrastructure and the platforms used to manage that infrastructure do not provide for multi-site remote management. And finally, public cloud has been used to certain degrees of success in managing data at the edge. However, we see a problem happening more commonly where vendor lock-in occurs. This becomes a bit of a problem when organizations need to migrate applications or data back on premises because whatever they're doing with their infrastructure on-prem might not jive and might not be compatible with what they're doing out in public cloud. We see plenty of organizations benefiting from an IT presence at the edge. And as we see that, we see a rising number of use cases as well. So manufacturing, for example, that uses predictive maintenance to improve energy consumption. Here is where the automated operations of HCI, for example, come into play to keep that data rolling in. Again, if you don't have constant collection and access to data at the edge, you lose value at the edge. Healthcare organizations also use the edge to capture and access real-time patient data. Again, the automated operations of IT is very critical here. Also, disaster recovery and integrated disaster recovery. If the data isn't available for whatever reason, environmental or other, there can be serious implications for healthcare practitioners. Energy companies will use connected oil wells to capture seismic data. This can have serious financial and safety consequences. So again, that constant stream of data needs to be coming. So high uptime is a critical feature of infrastructure at the edge for those organizations, along with all of the others, including automation and the ability to have infrastructure at the edge without having an IT staff presence. Smart cities as well, we see them using video surveillance to capture traffic data, to capture safety data, to capture security data. This is where the high scalability of infrastructure is very important. We're talking about loads of data, so you need infrastructure that can scale very seamlessly along with that data growth. According to our Voice of the Enterprise research, 63% of current HCI adopters deploy HCI in centralized data centers. Meanwhile, 9% of current HCI adopters deploy HCI at the edge. However, in 3 years, that number is going to skyrocket to 21%. So why is HCI a good fit for the edge? HCI wasn't initially developed for the edge, but it happens to make a very good fit for those environments. One of the reasons is a consolidated footprint. HCI takes up far less space than traditional 3-tier infrastructure. Another reason is the VM-centric experience. Most organizations are already virtualized, so there's not a large learning curve to shift over into HCI. This is also very critical at the edge when you do have less IT resources in terms of staff. You want something that's very familiar. The naturally automated and orchestrated nature of HCI, for all of the reasons I've spoke about previously, are also very critical. Again, because of the lack of IT resources. Things need to be as efficient as possible at the edge, especially as edge sites grow in number and nature. And then finally, seamless data management, also very critical. When we think about the edge, we think about the growth of data and the use of data. If the management of that data is lacking, then you're not going to derive as much value from the edge as you originally anticipated. We see HCI as an increasingly mature market, and as a result, an increasingly crowded market with plenty of options for today's IT teams and their various requirements. But HCI has certain features and certain platforms that make it even more ideal for the edge. One of those is centralized multi-site management. As you heard me talk about earlier, the edge tends to expand quickly after initial successful deployments. So having single pane of glass management across all of those sites is very critical, especially again with the lack of IT resources at the various sites. Globally federated disaster recovery. So having built-in data management, built-in data protection, very important. You want to have the data continue to flow. So we see associated features like deduplication, multi-site replication, all very critical to a successful strategic DR plan. Integrated backup. We've heard from a rising number of HCI customers that they want backup integrated right into their HCI platform. They don't want to be using various tools. They don't want to expand their overall IT footprint just to manage things at the edge. So disaster recovery built right into the platforms, also critical. So as we move forward, we do expect to see HCI become a standard player at the edge and have a standard presence at the edge as well, as the edge continues to boom.